It was one of those long, lonely drives where your mind starts to wander, where the hum of the tires against the road becomes a kind of lullaby. I had just left Kingman, Arizona, heading east along the historic Route 66. The sun had already dipped below the horizon, casting the desert in an endless sea of shadow and rust-colored twilight. I hadn't seen another car in over an hour when I spotted her. She was standing just off the shoulder, illuminated faintly by my high beams. A young woman, maybe 19 or 20, with long black hair and a pale blue dress that looked soaked through from the drizzle that had just started falling. Her head was bowed slightly, her arm extended with her thumb out. Something in my gut told me to keep going. But I didn't. I slowed to a crawl and rolled down the window. "Need a ride?" She looked up. Her face was beautiful, but there was something off. Not in a scary way. In a sad way. A deep sadness, like someone who had lost everything and was just drifting through time. She nodded silently and got into the passenger seat. As she settled in, I felt the temperature inside the car drop several degrees. I thought it was the rain. Or maybe my nerves. She barely spoke. Just whispered, "Winslow. Please." I tried making conversation. "You out here alone?" No response. "Your car break down?" She turned and looked at me then, really looked at me, and I saw something in her eyes that froze me to my core. Grief. Pain. And fear. We drove for maybe 20 minutes in silence, broken only by the rhythmic slap of the windshield wipers. Then, without warning, the smell of lilacs filled the air. Strong. Sweet. Familiar. I hadn't smelled that scent since my grandmother's funeral. And when I turned to say something, she was gone. Not vanished with a noise. Not screamed or opened the door. Just gone. Her seat was damp. The car door was still locked. My jacket, which she had wrapped around herself, was neatly folded on the seat. I slammed the brakes and looked around, heart hammering. No sign of her. Just darkness and desert. Shaking, I drove to the nearest diner about 15 miles up the road. I sat there, staring into my coffee, when an older waitress noticed me. "You okay, hon? You look like you've seen a ghost." I chuckled nervously and told her everything. The girl. The ride. The disappearance. The lilacs. Her face went pale. "You met Lily," she whispered. "She died in a wreck on that stretch in 1972. Car flipped in a rainstorm. Folks say she's been trying to get back home to Winslow ever since. I was a mess when I started that road trip. Newly divorced, laid off, and feeling like a complete failure. So I packed up my old Ford Ranger, left California behind, and hit Route 66 in search of something. Redemption, maybe. Or peace. I was deep into New Mexico, the sun hanging low, when I saw him. A young man, maybe mid-20s, standing at the side of the road near an abandoned gas station. He wore a Letterman jacket, dark slacks, and held a brown leather suitcase. I slowed and called out, "Need a lift?" He smiled. "I'd appreciate that, sir." I could tell right away he wasn't from this time. Not in a weird sci-fi way, just in how he spoke. Polite. Formal. And that jacket? The logo looked like something from the 50s. But I chalked it up to a retro style. He said his name was Tom. Heading to Albuquerque to meet his girl, June. "She's the love of my life," he said. "We're planning to get married next spring." We talked about baseball, teaching, family. He seemed earnest. Like someone untouched by the bitterness of the world. Then, as we approached a desolate stretch of land, he pointed to a dirt path. "Could you take that road up there? Just for a moment?" I hesitated but agreed. We drove slowly through weeds and overgrown brush until we reached a wrought iron gate. Beyond it, a small cemetery. Weathered. Forgotten. Just here, he said quietly. You can drop me off. I pulled up near the gate. He opened the door, then paused. Thank you, he said. Not many people stop. I just wanted to finish the journey. He stepped out, walked through the gate, and faded into the darkness between the tombstones. I sat there for several minutes, stunned. I turned to check the seat. His suitcase was still there. I called out for him. No response. Curious, I picked up the suitcase and carried it to the gate. The names on the stones were hard to read. Most were from the 1940s and 50s. And then I found it. Thomas Everett, 1934 to 1956. The photo embedded in the headstone? It was him. Inside the suitcase? A love letter to June. Postmarked August 1956. I've been a long-haul trucker for over 20 years. I've driven through dust storms in Texas, whiteouts in Colorado, and everything in between. But nothing prepared me for what I saw one rainy night on Route 66 outside Amarillo. It was around 2 a.m., visibility shot to hell because of a relentless downpour. I slowed to a crawl. That's when I saw her. A woman, barefoot, standing in the rain. Her white dress clung to her body, her long black hair hanging like a curtain over her face. She wasn't waving. Just standing. I pulled the rig to the side. Against all logic, something compelled me to roll down the passenger window. You all right? She looked up slowly, water dripping from her lashes. Please, he's still out there. That voice, it was filled with terror. Like she'd been running forever. I helped her in. The cab turned icy cold the second she stepped inside. I offered her a blanket from the back and turned the heat all the way up, but she never stopped shivering. She told me her name was Elise. Said she was trying to get away from him, a man she once loved, who had hurt her. Killed her, even. I wanted to ask what she meant, but every time I glanced over, her face was different. Like it shifted, sometimes young, sometimes old. Bruised. Pale. Broken. We drove in silence for miles. Then she pointed to a rusted sign. Stop here. It was an old, collapsed motel. Half-burned, rotted through. I parked anyway. Before I could say anything, she was gone. No door slam. No footsteps. Just, gone. The passenger seat was soaked. I stayed the night at a truck stop not far from there, rattled. I told the old guy behind the counter what happened. He just nodded. You saw Elise. She died in that motel in '74. Murdered by her boyfriend. Every time it rains, she walks that road, trying to escape him. He showed me a photo on the wall, yellowed and cracked. It was her. No doubt. Now, every time I drive that stretch, and the rain starts to fall, I slow down. And I watch. Because sometimes, she's still there. Waiting.